All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're running a high-energy exam bootcamp where we are going to conquer the 15 crucial review questions that every aspiring home inspector absolutely must know to pass their exams and thrive in the field.
And hey, we aren't just making this stuff up as we go. We're pulling these specific questions and their answers straight out of Chapter 1 of the foundational text, Systems and Standards. This completely illustrates the exact, precise knowledge required by the industry, making sure you're learning the absolute gold standard for the profession.
Here is our game plan for today. We're going to cover 4 main areas: the inspector's core mission, boundaries and exclusions, the value of written reports, and finally, what actually goes inside the inspection report. Okay, round 1, the inspector's core mission. Let's kick things off by tackling review questions 1, 7, and 8. So think about this for a second. How do the actual standards strictly define an inspector? I mean, it sounds like a super basic concept, right? But in the legal and professional world, definitions are literally everything. Well, the answer is elegantly simple. An inspector is a person hired to examine any system or component of a building in accordance with these standards of practice. That's it. You are entirely defined by the professional standards you follow. Moving on to question 1. Think about your ultimate deliverable. According to the text, in just one single sentence, what must that home inspection actually provide for your client? Here's the absolute crux of it. You must provide the client with objective information regarding the condition of the systems and components of the home as inspected at the time of the home inspection. Basically, you're not a fortune teller. You're an objective reporter taking a precise snapshot of a house on one specific day. Now, to maintain that total objectivity, question 8 asks us to summarize the code of ethics. It really boils down to 3 absolute rules. You've got to avoid conflicts of interest, act in good faith toward your clients, and avoid doing anything, and I mean anything, that harms the public or discredits the profession. So no kickbacks, no shady contractor referrals, just honest, unbiased observation. Moving right along to round 2, boundaries and exclusions. This is all about what you do not do, covering questions 3, 4, 5, and 6. Before we get into the super specific exclusions, let's look at questions 3 and 6. What are the 2 general limitations of a home inspection? And what in the world does the term technically exhaustive actually mean in this context? So the standards explicitly state that inspections are not required to identify concealed or latent defects, and they are never, ever technically exhaustive. What does that mean? Well, a technically exhaustive investigation involves dismantling things or using advanced scientific testing and calculations. Remember, you're doing a visual inspection here, not forensic engineering. All right, for question 4, brace yourself for this rapid-fire list of 10 exclusions. You don't determine life expectancy. You don't determine causes of conditions, repair costs, or code compliance. You aren't there to figure out the market value of the home, and you definitely don't tell the client if it's advisable to actually purchase the place. You are just there to observe and report on present, readily accessible conditions. And for question 5, we've got a matrix of 13 specific things you don't have to do. You don't offer engineering services or warranties. You definitely don't operate systems that are fully shut down or manual stop valves. And you absolutely do not enter dangerous areas or inaccessible crawl spaces. This is completely crucial because these standards are designed to protect both your physical safety and your legal liability. Let's pivot to round 3, the value of written reports. We're going to look at the blueprint of what we must document by hitting questions 9, 10, and 11. Take a quick moment and try to answer question 9. Why can't we just walk around a house and verbally tell the client what's wrong? Can you list 4 reasons why a formal written report is fundamentally necessary? Well, you need them for 4 distinct reasons. First off, the standards literally dictate it. Second, clients rely heavily on them for future reference long after the overwhelming inspection day is just a blur. Third, they are your primary liability protection. And fourth, a pristine report is a wildly powerful marketing tool that builds your credibility with realtors and future clients. Now, addressing questions 10 and 11, let's talk delivery and formatting. You can deliver these reports right there on site, or you can compile them for delivery at a later date. As for the format itself, you could use a simple checklist, write out narrative text, or, and this is definitely the most common approach today, use a combination of both to balance speed with descriptive detail. All right, final stretch, round 4, inside the inspection report. Let's break down the granular details and knock out our remaining review questions, 2, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So, out of all the possible data points you could log during a massive inspection, what are the strict mandatory components actually required by the standards to be in your report? Answering questions 2, 12, and 14, we have to separate the must-haves from the nice-to-haves. You absolutely must include descriptions of the systems, their conditions, recommended actions, and the implications of those conditions, unless, of course, they are painfully obvious. On the flip side, providing the causes of conditions, life expectancies, or ballpark costs, those are totally optional. Let's see how this actually works in the real world. We'll tackle question 13 by imagining what we'll call the rotted siding scenario. Picture a house with severely rotted cedar siding on the west wall. How exactly do you write that up? In your report, your required condition is stating that the cedar siding is significantly rotted. The cause, which remember is optional, might be moisture from a failing gutter. The required implication is that continued water intrusion will eventually compromise the home's structural framing. And finally, the required action is your recommendation to replace the siding and repair the gutter immediately. Makes sense, right? To wrap up our bootcamp review with question 15, keep in mind that you can also add extras to your report to really wow your customers. Elements above and beyond the common components could include your contract, an executive summary for quick reading, helpful maintenance tips, or even a seller's letter. Basically, these are the special touches that elevate you from just a standard inspector to a true top-tier professional. And just like that, we've systematically crushed all 15 review questions. We established your core mission, set hard boundaries on what you do not inspect, proved the vital value of written reports, and locked down exactly what required components go inside them. But before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought, based on those limitations we talked about. If you completely miss a massive termite infestation because it was entirely hidden behind perfectly intact drywall, does the standard hold you liable? Think back to our discussion on readily accessible spaces and concealed conditions. Keep that in mind as you study, and I'll catch you in the next one.